All right, deep divers, welcome back. Ready to plunge into another mystery with us?
Always.
Fantastic. This time, we're taking a deep dive into the world of the Sirians.
Ah, yes, the serious scenes.
You know those extraterrestrial beings that seem to pop up in so many hypnotic regression sessions and ufology discussions? We've got a whole stack of fascinating transcripts from Grafasi investigations, hypnotic sessions, all about encounters with these beings. They were conducted in Italian, Russian, Romanian, English, and French. Quite a mix.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, how these accounts come from such diverse backgrounds, and yet they share some really intriguing commonalities.
So let's start unraveling this cosmic tapestry, shall we? What kind of picture emerges when we try to piece together these hypnotic narratives?
Well, a lot of people describe the Sirians as tall beings,
Kotal.
often dressed in what looks like armor. Some even mention golden or bronze suits, almost like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Armor. That definitely makes me think of a species that's technologically advanced. Maybe even a little bit militaristic.
It's certainly one way to interpret it. And there are some fascinating details that pop up repeatedly, like several people describing the Sirians as having 3 long fingers,
3 fingers. That's interesting.
sometimes with long nails as well. And this detail appears across multiple languages and cultures, which makes it even more compelling.
And then there are those eyes that people always talk about, often described as large, intense, and like they can see right through you.
Yeah, the eyes definitely seem to be a focal point in a lot of these encounters. But here's where things get really interesting. Some people report that the Sirians have this amazing ability to shape shift.
Wait, hold on. Shape-shifting. Like they can just change their appearance whenever they want.
Exactly. Some people describe them taking on these feline forms, appearing as cat-like beings. Others suggested that maybe they change their appearance to seem less intimidating to us humans, like adapting to our perception of what's normal or what we'd consider safe.
Well, if you're dealing with a species that could be millions of years ahead of us evolutionarily, I guess it makes sense that they wouldn't want to completely freak us out with their true form.
Exactly. It suggests a level of awareness and control that's hard for us to even imagine. And while we see these common threads, the accounts also show us that there's a lot of diversity within the Sirian species. Some describe them as having darker skin tones, olive or even brown, while others hinted at different temperaments, some peaceful and benevolent, others more assertive, maybe even aggressive.
So it sounds like we might be dealing with multiple races or factions within Sirian civilization. Is it possible that their reasons for interacting with us are different depending on which group we're encountering?
That's a really good question. And some of these hypnotic sessions give us some clues about their origins. One person, while under deep hypnosis, described a really fascinating theory about how the Sirians came to be.
Okay, I'm all ears. Lay it on me. What's this theory all about?
Well, this person believes that the Sirians are actually a hybrid species, the result of some kind of experiment involving 2 other powerful extraterrestrial races.
Oh, wow, a hybrid species.
The Arcturians, known for their advanced spirituality and technology, and a near-extinct species called the Morton, or M2.
So you're saying the Sirians are like the cosmic offspring of these 2 very different alien civilizations?
Yeah, in a way, yes.
Ugh.
And this person goes on to describe this devastating war that the Morton were involved in, possibly with another unidentified species.
A war?
This conflict, which may have involved some crazy advanced weapons like gas attacks, might have been what led to the creation of the Sirians. It's almost like a cosmic origin story, right? Full of conflict and creation.
It certainly adds another layer to their potential reasons for wanting to interact with humanity. I mean, are they trying to make up for past mistakes? Are they trying to protect us from a similar fate?
Those are really good questions. We'll definitely delve into their motives a bit later. But first, I think it's worth exploring another thing that comes up a lot in these sessions, and that's the link between the Sirians and, well, the Sirius star system, specifically Sirius B.
Right. Sirius B. I've read a little bit about it. It's described as a planet with a lot of intense electromagnetic activity, right?
You got it. And this detail gets even more interesting when you think about the psychic abilities that people consistently attribute to the Sirians.
Ah, yes, their psychic powers. That's a recurring theme in so many extraterrestrial encounters. What kind of abilities are we talking about here?
Well, a lot of people describe telepathy as their main way of communicating. Feeling their thoughts being read or receiving messages straight into their minds.
It makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, if they were as advanced as these accounts make them seem, it's logical that they'd be way beyond using spoken language.
Totally. But it goes beyond just basic communication. Some sessions describe what sounds a lot like mind control, the ability to influence thoughts, emotions, even actions.
Okay, well, that's a little bit creepy, to be honest. Does that mean they're manipulating us?
It's definitely a possibility. However, there was one session that presented a different perspective.
Right.
This person described the Sirians explaining that they see mind control as a non-violent way to achieve their goals. They see it as a way to guide or influence people without having to resort to using physical force.
So they're operating with a totally different set of ethics,
Yeah.
where messing with energy and consciousness is considered okay, maybe even preferable.
Exactly. It makes us question our own understanding of ethics and free will.
It really does.
And then there's this concept of energy transmutation, this ability to, well, manipulate and draw energy from different sources.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that in one of the sessions. They talked about it like a way of recharging their bodies, like drawing energy from higher dimensions or something like that.
Right. It's as if they're bioenergetic beings, drawing sustenance from energy sources that we don't even really understand yet. It might sound a little far-fetched, but it actually aligns with some emerging theories in quantum physics. The idea that everything is, at its core, energy.
It's definitely a mind-bending concept. So we've got advanced technology, psychic powers, a fascinating origin story. But what about their society? What's their social structure like?
Well, from these sessions, it seems like they've built a society that really values knowledge and individual freedom above all else.
Interesting.
There's a recurring theme of a council of elders who guide the younger generations, but it's not a hierarchical system like we might imagine. It's more like a meritocracy based on age, experience, and wisdom.
So they have deep respect for knowledge and experience. What about things like family structures or relationships? Is there any mention of that?
Yes, actually, several sessions describe this concept of marriage in their society, which I thought was really fascinating. They describe it as a lifelong partnership that's decided through this very strict compatibility assessment. They really stress the importance of finding a partner who aligns with their goals and values.
Wow, talk about relationship compatibility taken to a whole new level. No pressure there. So they're not just technologically and psychically advanced. They've also developed this really complex and interesting social structure.
And their education system really reflects that emphasis on knowledge. People describe these massive archives full of information about the universe, galaxies, and even different dimensions. It sounds like a society that is constantly trying to learn and expand its understanding of everything.
Which leads us to a very important question. Why are they so interested in us? What caught their attention about this little blue planet and the humans living on it?
That's the million-dollar question. And it's one that we'll definitely explore as we go deeper into this enigmatic world of the Sirians. You know, in one session, there was this idea that maybe Sirian DNA and human DNA are somehow connected.
Wait, are you saying we could be part Sirian? Like distant relatives from another star system? That's wild.
Yeah, the details are fuzzy, and we don't know how strong the connection might be, but it's a fascinating thought. What if our evolutionary paths crossed with the Sirians way back when?
Okay, that's definitely mind-blowing. But if they are interested in us, how are they making contact? They aren't exactly shaking hands at the UN, are they?
No, not exactly. These accounts talk about all sorts of ways they interact with us. Some of them are way more subtle than you'd expect. For example, some people describe feeling this really distinct shift in energy during their encounters.
Like, what do you mean? Like that feeling of being watched, or is it more of a physical sensation?
I think it depends. Some people describe it as a light breeze, others as flickering lights. Some even felt a tingling on their skin. It's like this ripple in reality, a little hint that something extraordinary is going on.
Okay, that's a little spooky, I have to admit. What about channeling? We hear about people receiving messages from extraterrestrials all the time, including Sirians. Do these sessions talk about that at all?
Yeah, they do, actually, and they also offer a bit of a warning about it. While it's possible that some people are genuinely channeling information from the Sirians, they also say that the information can get distorted pretty easily. Other entities might interfere, like a cosmic game of telephone. The message gets all jumbled up along the way.
So we got to be careful about those channeled messages. Not everything that claims to be from outer space actually is.
Exactly. Now, how about we talk about the elephant in the room implants?
Ah, yes, the alien abduction classic. Are we talking about people being snatched from their beds and getting microchips implanted in their brains? What do these sessions say about that?
There are stories about the Sirians implanting devices in humans, but it's not always like in the movies. It's often described as a very subtle thing, sometimes even happening while people are asleep. And they don't always use them for the same reasons either.
So it's not just about tracking us or controlling our minds.
Not necessarily. Some sessions suggest that these implants might be used to keep tabs on how humans are evolving, study how we react to certain things, or even give us little nudges in a certain direction, almost like a tiny little cosmic life coach whispering in your ear.
That's crazy. But if they can manipulate energy and consciousness like we talked about earlier, why even bother with physical implants? Couldn't they do all that remotely?
That's a good point. Maybe physical implants give them a more stable connection, or maybe they have a completely different purpose that we haven't figured out yet. We just don't know for sure.
Speaking of things we don't know for sure, what about the idea of Sirian souls being reborn in human bodies? Does that come up in these sessions at all?
It does, and it's a bit of a tricky concept. Most of the sessions agree that a Sirian being can't fully physically incarnate into a human body. It's like Earth's energy is too dense for that to happen. But the idea that someone could have a soul that originally came from the Sirius star system and is now inhabiting a human body, well, that's something they explore.
So you could have a soul that's from Sirius living in a human body here on Earth.
Wow, that's really fascinating. But with all these different types of contact energy exchanges, channeling, implants, soul origins, it makes me wonder, what's the point? What are they really after?
You're right. It's time to get to the heart of the matter. What are the Sirians' motives? Some of these sessions suggest their intentions are pretty good, like they're here to guide us, help us evolve.
Mm.
Maybe they see our potential,
Mhm.
Maybe they even feel a connection to us and want to lend a hand.
So like cosmic mentors showing us the way to a brighter future. I like that. It's a hopeful way to look at it. But I have a feeling it can't be that simple, right? Yeah, you're right. There are some sessions that paint a less idealistic picture. They suggest that the Sirians might have ulterior motives. After all, they're a species that's all about knowledge and expansion. And sometimes expansion comes at a cost.
So maybe they are using us in some way. Are they stealing our resources, doing experiments on us, manipulating us for some reason we don't even know about?
Well, there is this idea of energy harvesting that comes up in some of the sessions.
Energy harvesting. Are you saying they're taking energy from us? That sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi horror movie. What kind of energy are we talking
A
about?
few sessions specifically mention human sexual energy as something the Siriations might be interested in.
Whoa, that's taking the whole cosmic connection thing to a whole new level. But seriously, is there anything to back up that claim? Or is it just based on what people said under hypnosis?
That's where we need to be really careful. Hypnosis can be a powerful tool, but it's also important to remember that what people experience can be influenced by their own beliefs and imaginations.
Right, so we have to consider that some of these accounts might be shaped by personal biases or even cultural ideas about sexuality.
Exactly. It's really important to be critical, especially when we're dealing with such extraordinary claims.
It's like we're trying to put together this giant cosmic jigsaw puzzle, but some of the pieces might be from a completely different puzzle.
That's a great way to put it. But even with those missing or mismatched pieces, the picture that's emerging is really fascinating, isn't it? It makes you think, and it's full of mystery.
So where do we go from here? How do we reconcile these different stories about the Siriusins? Are they benevolent guides or energy-hungry manipulators? Or could they be both? It's enough to make your head spin.
Yeah, it really makes you question what it means to be an advanced species, doesn't it? We tend to think that if a civilization is technologically superior, they must also be morally superior. But what if that's not the case? What if the Sirians, with all their incredible abilities, have a completely different set of ethics than we do?
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, what if we had mastered things like telepathy and energy manipulation? Would we be tempted to use those powers for ourselves, even if it meant messing with other people's free will?
That's a question we all need to ask ourselves, I think. It reminds us that even with good intentions, there's always a risk that power can be abused.
Throughout all these sessions, there was this one theme that really stuck with me: manipulation. Whether it's through telepathy, shape-shifting, or implants, it seems like the Sirians are experts at subtly influencing our thoughts, emotions, and even our actions.
That's a really important point. It suggests that even if their ultimate goal is to help humanity evolve, the way they go about it might not always sit well with our ideas of free will and independence.
It's almost like they're playing some cosmic game of chess, and we're the pawns, completely clueless about the bigger picture.
That's a pretty chilling thought, but it does highlight the potential power imbalance when we talk about interacting with extraterrestrial beings. If a species can manipulate our minds like that, How can we be sure that our interactions with them are truly consensual and beneficial for both sides?
It's a dilemma that we might have to face sooner than we think, as our technology keeps advancing, and the possibility of meeting other intelligent life becomes more and more real.
You're absolutely right. And I think these sessions, even with all their uncertainties and contradictions, give us a valuable opportunity to start thinking about these questions now. We need to start thinking critically about how we approach the unknown and be prepared for the potential challenges and opportunities that come with interacting with other intelligent beings.
So what do we do with all this information? How do we make sense of these different stories about the Siriusians and prepare ourselves for the possibility of encountering them, or other extraterrestrials, in the future?
Well, I think the most important thing is to stay curious and open-minded, but also to be discerning. We need to approach these accounts with a healthy dose of skepticism. Question our assumptions and biases. And most importantly, I think we need to keep having these conversations. We need to have open and honest discussions about the implications of extraterrestrial contact and what it means for humanity's place in the cosmos.
I love that. If the Siriusians are out there watching us, studying us, maybe even subtly influencing us, they're probably learning just as much from us as we are from them. We're a complex species, aren't we? Capable of incredible love and compassion, but also prone to conflict and self-destruction.
Maybe that's what makes us so intriguing to them. We're a species full of potential, both for good and for bad. And the choices we make now, the path we choose to follow, will ultimately determine the fate of our species and our planet.
So, deep divers, as we wrap up our exploration into the world of the Siriosians, we want to leave you with this thought. If a species with the power to bend reality and manipulate energy is so interested in humanity, what does that say about our potential? Is it a potential for greatness, for destruction, or something we can't even begin to imagine? Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep looking up. Until next time, deep divers.